Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kobina. In today's video, I'm going to discuss something that tends to bother a lot of us, especially at the earlier stages of our cloud computing journey. We often ask ourselves, or we often tell ourselves, am I smart enough or am I strong enough to become a cloud engineer? Or am I smart enough to become a solution architect? So in this video, if you're someone who have ever contemplated on giving up on your cloud journey just because some of the things in there seems complex and complicated, then this video is just for you. Let's jump right into it. Let's be real. When you are getting into cloud computing from the very beginning and then you come across concepts like VPCs, subnets, security groups, EC2 instance, Lambda functions, EKS, containers, and then you look at the way the market keeps on changing and evolving rapidly, you sometimes feel or sometimes think that this thing is not meant for you, and there is no way you are going to catch up. If you look at some of the architecture diagrams you see online for some of the projects or basic projects that you would like to build, and then you try going through it and then you see the service component of it, it's sometimes scary, and that is clearly understandable. And just to add to that, when you look at people post on LinkedIn and then you see people going in for their specialty certifications, others going in for their professional certification, and then you see people posting complex architecture designs and certain acronyms online, you sometimes feel this is not meant for you, and then there is no way you are going to get to that point. But to be honest, here's what no one is telling you. You see, everybody feels the same way at the very beginning. Personally, when I was trying to get into cloud computing like 6 years back, I went online, got few tutorials, and I decided to do some implementation, and I realized that the only thing you can sometimes do is when you stick to tutorials. Once you are off tutorials and you try doing something, if you are not careful, you end up even incurring charges to AWS account and all that. So it was very scary. You go on to LinkedIn and then you see people posting some designs. Even when it gets to the simplest of architecture designs or something simple that anyone can build, you see people having certain complex analogies and complex stuff around that. It really makes it scary sometimes. But one thing I want you to know in all this, Dennis, you see, being smart, especially in cloud computing, is not about knowing everything up front, but rather it's about being curious enough to figure things out as you go. So here is one simple truth. You don't necessarily have to be a genius to become a cloud engineer. So if you are someone who has contemplated or told yourself that you feel you are not smart enough to become a cloud engineer, truth be told, becoming cloud engineer is not so difficult as it seems. Here are some of the things you really need to become the cloud engineer. First, you need to be curious. So, to become a cloud engineer, it's not necessarily about the things you know upfront, right? But your ability to try and figure out how systems and things work. So, cloud is a very huge, landscape or a very huge ecosystem, and there are multiple ways of doing the same thing. So as someone who is aspiring to become a cloud engineer or a solution architect or an infrastructure engineer, what you have to do is to become very curious. If you see a particular system functioning, with the little knowledge you have or the little things you do in cloud computing as of this point, you try as much as possible to try and figure out how that system is working. So that's the number one thing you need to know. The second thing I'll talk about is being consistent. Cloud, as we know, is a rapidly evolving ecosystem. AWS, for example, keeps on changing their interface virtually every month or every 2 months or something. You keep on seeing changes. So if you are not consistent in your cloud journey, you will always be left behind. So if you really, really want to become cloud engineer, I want you to understand that you are smart or more than smart enough to become the cloud engineer. All that you got to do is to be consistent, always keep building. If you are going to dedicate just 30 minutes each day, or say 2 hours each day to build something, keep on building, keep on building, keep on building. And once you keep on building, automatically it builds the confidence, right? As I indicated earlier, once you become curious and then you understand how system works and how the system operates, and then you are consistently trying to evolve it and build, things begin to fall in their right places and in their right direction. The third thing you really need to become a cloud engineer is problem solving. So you see, cloud is all about solving problems for your customers or solving client issues. So if you want to become a cloud engineer, all that you really need is your ability to come up with solutions to people's problems. using the cloud tools and services you have. So it's not necessarily about displaying huge architecture and complex architecture diagram and all that. All those things come as you keep on building consistently. But the key thing is you having a problem solving mindset. With that, once you see any issues or once you see any problem, you ask yourself, how can I solve this thing? If someone is facing a slight issue and you think, oh, based on the little thing I think this issue has to do with availability, this has to do with scalability. You start to talk that way, you start to think that way, and you begin to try and find fix. So if the problem is with scalability, what are some of the services am I going to look at? So these are some of the things you begin to consider in your cloud journey. So it's not just about knowing hundreds of services, but rather knowing how to solve actual problems with a very few services and tools that you know. The fourth thing is be patient. Cloud is a rapidly evolving landscape. And once you begin your cloud journey, you are definitely going to break things. You are definitely going to Google most of your solutions. You are definitely going to get confused. But it's all about being patient. With time, as you continue to build consistently, as you become curious in trying to understand how system works, as you tend to try and then solve problems, actual problems, and then you do it little by little, you get to a point, you realize that all those simple things are beginning to come together. They are all beginning to make sense. So rather than telling yourself you're not smart enough in doing this whole cloud thing, just take your time, work at your own pace, be patient, and things will fall in the right direction. And the fifth thing I'll talk about is having a growth mindset. This is very important. Cloud, as we know, is changing and keeps on evolving rapidly. If you're someone who doesn't have growth mindset, it won't be easy or it won't go well in the long run. So if you really want to get into cloud computing, what matters the most is having this growth mindset, that each day, each time, you are going to try and improve on what you are doing, what you are building. And with little by little, you get to a point where you will also be confident in building and then showing off some of these complex architecture diagrams that are causing you to quit now. So it all takes time and it takes little effort and little progress. So before I wrap up the video, I want to discuss some of the few things you can do to get started, even if you currently feel you're not smart enough to become a cloud engineer. One, I want you to quickly pick a service. It could be any AWS service, and begin to work and then learn about that service. You don't have to know everything there is to know about that service, but just pick a service and begin to play with it. Once you work with a service, get to a point where you begin to build something with that service, right? As a cloud engineer, you are always to be curious. You are always to have a problem-solving mindset. So try and then use whatever service you picked to solve a slight problem. Build something tiny that you will personally be proud of. And then 3, look for beginner-friendly tutorials. And then try and then implement as they implement. But as you do that, I want you to approach it slightly different. Instead of building completely what they have there, right? Just try and then add your own touch to it. If the person is building a particular website or using certain services, try using that services from a different angle, different tangent, and try and then have this growth mindset. Try and then figure out how certain things can come into the tutorial as you work on the tutorial. If you're looking for tutorials that you can get started with, I have a couple of them on this channel. As time goes on, I'll be creating end-to-end tutorials for raw AWS projects. That's will really be helpful to you. So if you're looking forward to that, kindly feel free to like the video and then subscribe to the channel. Another thing I would like to talk about is documenting your journey. So as you pick your services and as you make progress, try and document everything that you build. Cloud keeps on changing, so it's very important to document some of the things you do and then also tell people about it. As you share, as you build, and as you show people, you realize that others begin to contribute to you. You tend to figure out new ways of coming across stuff. And then now with time, you realize that all these complex things that you see online, you realize that the tiny solutions you begin to build, they tend to take shape as all those complex things you've been saying. So in conclusion, if you ever doubted yourself, I want you to hear this. You are more than smart enough to become a cloud engineer. Just have the right mindset. Approach it in the right way. Know that it's always going to take time. Know that you have to be consistent. Know that you have to be curious. That is, you have to understand and figure out on your own how things work. And then always have a problem-solving mindset. And then having all these things into place, I can assure you with time, all the things that you are studying now, that doesn't seem to make sense, will begin to fall together. and then you do well in your cloud journey. Kindly feel free to drop a comment and let me know where you are currently at in your cloud journey. Thank you for watching. Catch you in the next video.